Thank you all for staying here for the business meeting. Just to reintroduce myself, I'm Sean Peisert. I'm the chair of the IEEE Computer Society Technical Committee on Security and Privacy. This meeting, the TC meeting happens every year at the symposium, and we usually follow a typical standard format here, and so I will walk you through that tonight. I'm not seeing it on these monitors, but that's okay. Hopefully this is a relatively short meeting for this evening. If you've got 7:30 or 7:45 dinner reservations, I think you'll be okay through the whole thing. I'm going to start by walking through a status report on the TC, give a few updates for 2019 and 2020, hand out some awards, and at that point I will, and there will be an election. I will then turn this meeting over to one of the program chairs who will talk about some plans for next year as well. What is the TSP? Who is the TCSP? The Technical Committee on Security and Privacy is all of you and a lot of other people as well, but the officers of the TCSP are myself. My term ends at the end of this calendar year, and Ulvar Erlingsen, who is the vice chair and will take over as chair on January 1st, and Young Vaughn from Iowa State University has been the TCSP treasurer for many, many years, serving in a largely invisible but incredibly important role. There are a number of additional extremely important TCSP volunteers. Hillary Orman is the editor of the Cypher newsletter, which if you do not receive now, you should. Please sign up for it if you haven't. Google IEEE Security Cypher, you'll find it. It's a valuable source of information. The webmasters and postmasters are Bogdan Kopos at Google and Ulf Lindqvist at SRI. Beginning as awards chair this year for the TC is EJ Jung from University of San Francisco. And I would like to point out that EJ is serving this role for both the symposium and the TC. And yes, she did all of those Test of Time awards this year as well. So I'd actually like to call out EJ and specifically thank her for all of those awards. This is tremendous. Thank you. And she's got now 18 boxes of awards that we have to mail out as well. So that's the next step we've got to figure out. So EJ, thank you so much for all of your work. I realize there's more, and we'll do our best to support you too. Status report. So like I said, the TC is probably all of you and then some. At last time I count, when I pulled the membership roster about 2 weeks ago, 2,373 people. Anybody can join. It's free. You don't have to be an IEEE member. There's the URL right there. Go for it. Then you are a member. What does the TCSP do? Primarily, the TCSP does financial co-sponsorship of a number of conferences and workshops. That includes this event, the IEEE Symposium on Security and Privacy, Computer Security Foundations Symposium, Euro S&P, which has existed since 2016, SecDev, which it took over financial sponsorship. I didn't do that. Let's see. In 2018, HOST, which is a hardware security conference that we co-sponsor with another TC, and the Privacy Aware Computing Conference, which we co-sponsored for a couple of years as well. We technically co-sponsor a few other conferences as well, which is to say we lend our name and endorsements to those conferences, but we don't actually offer money to them. We are also called upon periodically in other roles as well. We've taken a role in helping to offer support of the IEEE statement on strong encryption and a number of other things as well. Here's another snapshot of what the TCSP does. These are some stats about a few of the events from both this year and last year as well. You can see this is a lot to take in on one page here, but just to kind of summarize for posterity, you can see that HOST has become a fairly sizable conference, hovering around 300 people, 25 papers. SecDev is an ongoing, growing conference. It hasn't taken place yet, so we don't have attendance, but well over 100 attendees there as well. CSF is ongoing and is partnered periodically with other conferences as well to broaden its own support. Euro S&P, again, also hasn't taken place yet, but has a growing number of submissions to that as well, and is becoming quite a solid event in its own right as well. A little status report and updates on the TC this year. So as I mentioned, EJ Jung has become our awards chair. She has taken on the role of establishing and documenting the process for all of the TCSP awards. The Symposium on Security and Privacy has, over the past 10 years or so, really developed a wonderful handbook and codified set of procedures that can be handed down from one person who has served in a role to the next. It's been refined, developed, modified as we have evolved and grown. It is the bedrock of how the symposium is run, and the TC has been looking to do similar things in order to codify its policies and procedures, and EJ has had a role in helping to establish that for awards, and we'll be doing that for other things as well. And handled all of, she is in the process of handling all of the TCSP conferences. As I mentioned, there are now 5 active ones, and so we'll be doing awards for those conferences from the TC as well, and the TCSP Outstanding Community Service Awards. Another TCSP activity that has taken place over the past couple of years as well is that we've supported the Code of Conduct, which is now in place as well. You've seen the code stewards and heard the announcements about the implementation of the Code of Conduct over the past couple of years. This first began last year and was refined and reintroduced this year, and is also at SecDev, and we'll be gradually pushing this out to all of the other conferences as well, now that we've better understand the process a bit. Again, we also represent the TCSP community to the IEEE and Computer Society. We've taken a significant role in working with the Computer Society to ensure continued support of the open access model that we enjoy right now, of the continuous submission and review model that we enjoy right now, and other sorts of things as well. Finances, we had about a $66,000 budget that was approved this year. Just about everything is given back to the conferences. The vast majority of that goes to activities at the symposium. So there was about $30K that was given to the symposium to support the 40th anniversary this year. Quite a bit for the Test of Time Awards. Quite a bit for financial support of student travel, so, the student PC, the S&P speed mentoring, and there's a smaller amount of support that goes into some of the other TCSP conferences as well. Another major initiative that we went through this year is that we established the Test of Time Awards. As I mentioned in my brief earlier presentation, Stefan brought this idea to Ulf and I in late 2017, and we thought it was a great idea, but realized it was going to take some time to get together. So we first had to understand how this actually should work. This is going to be now a core component of the IEEE Symposium on Security and Privacy. It's not only going to continue forward, but celebrating the 40-year history of the symposium. So the first thing that we did was establish a committee to lay out the ground rules, which Stefan chaired and worked on along with Ulvar and Brian Parno and Mike Reiter. Once those initial ground rules were established, we initiated the first 2 what I would call regular rounds, which are the rounds that are looking at papers from 10 to 12 years ago. So the first round, which was awarded today, was 2007, 2009. And Stefan put together a wonderful committee that included David Evans, Ari Jules, Patrick McDaniel, Rebecca Wright. I hope I got all those names right, Stefan, great. And in addition, I worked with Kathy Meadows and Steve, who also collaborated with Steve Lipner to establish the Catch-Up Committee, which covered the first 15 years of awards for the symposium, which also included Terry Benzel and Carl Landwehr, Teresa Lunt, John McHugh, Peter Neumann. We are working on chairs and committees for next year. We will have a second catch-up round, and so there will be at least some more festivities surrounding that next year as well. And this process of the Test of Time Awards will continue every year going forward as well. And this will also become a codified process that is implemented by the symposium and supported by the technical committee as well. I wanted to briefly mention 2-track. I'm sorry for all the text on this slide. I just kind of wanted to put this down here because we upload these slides to the website, and I wanted to document this. Last year, we voted on several formats to address presenting an increased number of accepted papers. Multi-track did receive the most support, but the vote didn't have the benefit of information about cost and logistics. So it was always our plan to come back to you all this year and have a so-called final vote, if you will. But what happened over the past year or so, that the number of papers accepted by the program committee precluded us from having the luxury of deferring the decision until this year's business meeting. And so the general chair and program chair came to the TC with a plan, which Ulvar and I endorsed, to go two-track for 2019. It was the option that seemed to have the most of the support this year, and so that's what we did. We now have some cost information. That cost about 30 grand more, by the way, to go two-track in terms of AV and moving the room around and so on, and a number of other adjustments in the event to keep costs under control. But here we are. Hopefully everybody's enjoying and having a successful meeting. We will absolutely be soliciting feedback on this in the annual survey this year after we've gone through a full implementation of two-track for an entire cycle. And based on the feedback and additional comments that can certainly happen offline as well, there can be additional discussion about this at the business meeting next year, the 2020 business meeting. Other updates for 2020. The general chair for the symposium for 2020 is Gabriela Giocarle from SRI International. The vice chair is Alvaro Cardenas from UC Santa Cruz, recently moved to Santa Cruz. The program chairs for 2020, who you all probably know pretty well because you've already been submitting papers that will be eligible for the 2020 symposium, are Hovav Sheshem from UT Austin and Alina Aprea from Northeastern. And we're delighted to have this team together for next year, as well as their own teams. And you'll probably hear more about that during the closing meeting tomorrow as well. That's it for the first part of business. I would now like to move on to awards. And the first thing I would like to do is recognize Mark Gondry and Christopher Krugel. So before they come up, actually, Mark, you can come up while I'm saying this. Mark, come up. And Christopher, come up. Yes, please. When Mark took on this role, he probably had a vague inkling, because he's quite good at math, having been treasurer for many years, that this was going to be the 40th instantiation of the symposium, and probably had some idea that there was going to be something happening along with that. Little did he know that I was going to throw the Test of Time Awards at him. Little did you probably know that, particularly given the conversation at last year's business meeting, that we were going to have an increase in the number of acceptances. Both of you have handled this heroically, eloquently, outstandingly, with grace, and I can't believe what an amazing job you have done and how well this symposium has turned out. You are two wonderful people in our community. We appreciate your service very much. We know you're not disappearing, but I would like to honor both of you this year. Thank you so much. Mark Gondry and Christopher Krugel, thank you very much. There's just a few other awards I wanted to hand out this year as well. So as Stefan pointed out, the idea that you come up with good ideas means that you might be responsible for implementing them, and let that be a lesson to all of you. It did take about 22 months to put all of this together for the Test of Time Awards. It was a heroic amount of effort. Defining the process, bringing the community together to characterize what this process should look like, to take something with the history of the Oakland Conference, of this symposium, and ensure that how the most impactful and important works that have been done here are honored properly and enshrined as awardees of the Test of Time is a non-trivial amount of effort. The process definition, particularly that Stefan went through for this, the number of papers that I cannot imagine that Kathy's committee went through in order to come up with the list that they came up with is mind-boggling. This is a volunteer effort that will be worth its salt for many, many, many years to come. And I hope many people in this audience are either awardees or future awardees that will benefit from this, and/or will benefit from reading some of the papers that have been honored this year and beyond. I would like to honor Stefan Savage for being the inaugural chair of the Test of Time Awards Committee, and Kathy Meadows for chairing the first catch-up committee. The amount of work you've done is so important. Please come up. I have one more award as well, and there are many people who volunteer their time for the symposium, for the technical committee, for all of the activities that take place within here. Many of those people are work in the background. They do things that we benefit from, that we appreciate, that make the symposium better, that make our careers better. And we often don't necessarily know who those people are, their names behind them. They're not necessarily up on stage all of the time, but they are quite vital. I mentioned the awards this year. I've been talking about awards, I think, for most of this session so far. In the beginning of this symposium, well, I don't know about the beginning, but at least up until relatively recently, there was the TC, there was the symposium, and there was CSF. And all of a sudden, we have 5, maybe 6 conferences that we are putting under the financial umbrella of the TC. We've instituted Test of Time Awards. The nature of awards has gotten quite large. As I was talking with this about Hillary Orman, who'd been doing awards up until this current year, she was describing to me the process that she had used to create these awards, designing them, silk screening them, painstakingly creating them, hand producing them. This was something I hadn't realized or appreciated at all. And when we started talking about expanding the nature of awards within the symposium, all of this suddenly started coming to light. And I would like to recognize, Hillary has been recognized before for other things that she has done. I would like to recognize her today for starting us out on this process of instituting awards, and the way that we recognize people in our community for the outstanding work that they have done that benefits all of us. And Hillary has had an amazing role in that, and I would like to recognize our appreciation for Hillary today. So as we come to the end of my part of this particular session, as I mentioned, my term ends at the end of this calendar year. All TC chairs and vice chairs sort of a 2-year term. Mine began on January 1st of 2018. Ulva Erlingsson will succeed me as chair beginning on January 1st of this year, which means that we need a new TC vice chair. Brian Parno, currently at Carnegie Mellon University, has agreed to be nominated as TCSP Vice Chair for 2020 and 2021. And so now is the time in this proceedings that we need to actually elect a Vice Chair as well. I'm probably supposed to ask if there are any other nominees at this point who wish to serve in this role. Okay, may I please have a show of hands, all in favor of electing Brian Parno as TCSP Vice Chair? All right, that looks easily to me like it carries the room. So Brian Parno has been elected as TCSP Vice Chair for 2020-2021. Thank you very much. Okay, with that, I will turn the mic here over to Alina Aprea. And Alina, your slides come right after mine in the deck. They're all together here. So who will talk to you about refining the Oakland submission model. Alina, it's 6:50. And so I'm going to pull you off. No. We have technically have till 7:30, but you don't have to use all the time.
Oh, okay, great. Hello, everybody. Thanks for staying so late. My name is Alina Opra. I'm from Northeastern University, and I'm talking to you as a program committee co-chair for Oakland 2020. And I'm talking on behalf of the program committee co-chairs and TC chairs and vice chairs. So we are thinking about different ideas to refine the current Oakland submission model, and we are looking during this meeting for your feedback. So a couple of years ago, the program committee chairs and technical committee chairs at the time came up with this sort of novel and original proposal to change the submission model of Oakland from a fixed deadline once a year to this rolling deadline every month, inspired by some previous success in the database community. And the goals of the original proposals were multifold. So first of all, one of the main goals was to allow the authors more flexibility. When they have some paper ready for Oakland, they should submit it right away and not wait for 9 or 10 months until the actual Oakland deadline. But another goal was also to improve the quality of the paper and the whole review process, the idea being that the program committee members would get a very low volume, low number of papers all the time, so they could allocate more time for reviewing these papers. They will do a more careful job, and they will provide the authors more constructive feedback. So let's see what's the current status. And in 2019 was the first year where we actually went through a whole cycle of 12 deadlines on the 1st of every month, and including on January 1st, that was the first until December 1st. And what happened in 2019 is that we had PC members to review 6 times a year. Each review cycle was 2 months, so it spans the entire year. And then at the end of every review cycle, we have an online PC meeting to make the final decisions for accepted papers. And authors get back the notifications in 2 months from the moment they submit it. So if you submit on January 1st, you get a notification on like February 28th. And so let's see how this compares with the previous model before 2018, where we had, as we all know, we had 1 deadline a year. That was, I guess, 39 years of Oakland, right? So we had 1 deadline in about mid-November, and then papers went through multiple rounds of reviews. So first round of review, where they get like three reviews per paper, then some papers will get more reviews, and then there will be an in-person PC meeting where we actually discuss in details all the papers and make final decisions. So if we compare the 2 models, clearly there are some advantages, and we observe as a community a lot of benefits, and I hope everyone in the room agrees with me that this was actually a successful experiment. And I'd just like to mention some of the advantages of the new submission model. In particular, as authors, all of us have experienced that. We have a lot of flexibility. We can pick the submission cycle and submit pretty much every month, or we can actually work on our papers to make them better, to submit a paper that we're really proud of. The other, I would say, benefits are that the accepted papers become available immediately. They are disseminated online after 1 month after the acceptance decision. So that's a benefit in having all these results available early, right? You don't have to wait until May to read a paper for, like, say, Oakland 2020. You can actually read papers for Oakland 2020 now. They are already online. I believe also that the paper quality improved by having this revised decision option. So authors get back a list of items they need to address from the program committee, and then they work on those, they address them, the papers become stronger, and they are accepted. So all of that is good. And overall, we've seen some statistics earlier that the overall load for PC members was actually reduced, but it was spanning a continuous time. So also Auckland was influential in the entire community, and because of this successful experiment, now all the conferences, all the top 4 conferences have multiple submissions deadline a year. So all of this is good, so we see all these advantages, but there are a few things that I think can be improved, and this is what we're thinking about. And in particular, 2 items I want to bring up. So the first is that we have this continuous review process for PC members. So for people that have been on the PC in 2019, they can attest to that. So it's really 6 cycles. It's every month you have to read some number of papers. And the other issue is that because we promised the authors to have this short turnaround of 2 months, we actually had, as program committee chairs, we had to actually remove the second round of reviews for papers, right? So all the papers only go through 1 round of reviews where they get 3 reviews, and then we need to make a decision just based on 3 reviews. And sometimes what happens is that we don't have enough expertise on a paper, but we don't have enough time to ask for an additional review because we have to send the notifications back in 2 months. And some of the, so let me tell you about some of the changes that we already implemented for 2020 to address some of these items. And in particular, to thinking first about our PC members and trying to somehow reduce the continuous load that they experienced in 2019. So for that, we increased the size of the PC significantly by about 20%. So we are now at 122 PC members, which is a record. And we also split the PC into multiple groups, 5 groups, and then everybody reviews in only 3 cycles compared to 6 cycles before. So they review about half of the time. Not overall, the amount of work is the same, but it's just the way it is distributed that changed. Okay, but there are a few remaining issues, and in particular, this issue of having high quality for the reviews, because we don't have the second round of reviews, and we don't always find or we don't have time to actually ask experts. Experts might be members on the PC, but also sometimes external members. If we have enough time, we can actually do a better job of finding high expertise reviews. And we also found, interestingly, that by splitting the PC into multiple groups and having these mini PCs, this also somehow increases this problem, because for some areas we only have 1 or 2 experts on the PC, right? And they are reviewing only in 3 cycles, so sometimes we don't have experts available. So going forward, and I'm talking about 2021, because the 2020 we cannot really change at this point. We're running, for 2020 we already had 4 submission cycles. We are now reviewing papers for May already, for May 1st. But for 2021, the first submission deadline is going to be January 1st, which is like 8 months apart. And we're thinking about different ideas to actually try to substantially improve the review quality. This is one of the things that we started to observe that it suffered. And I strongly believe that the review cycle needs to be a bit longer, from the 2 months that we promised to the authors to at least 2.5 months, where we introduce a second round of reviews, and not for all the papers, of course, but for the papers that really need high expertise, that need additional set of eyes to look at the paper. And also, we'll try to limit the PC fragmentation to ensure some consistency, right? If a paper is reviewed in February or in April, we like to have similar outcome. Okay, so of course this would be nice to have, but it comes at a cost, so it's not for free. And I think the cost is that we have to cut to reduce the number of submission deadlines, right? Because if we have a submission deadline every month, and if we're going to have the review cycle like say 2.5 months, then we cannot just handle 3 different review cycles at every moment in time. So, so some possible solution to this would be to move to either a quarterly or bi-monthly deadline. We're still considering different options, so nothing is definitive. We're just thinking what is best for the community to have all the flexibility to the authors, but also to improve the quality of the review. So we'd like to achieve this. And we will work on a full proposal in the next few months and ask for community input. But if you have any feedback today, you are welcome to come to the microphone, especially if you are like part of the PC for 2019 or 2020. If you are an author that received back reviews from us, and if you have any constructive feedback, we're happy to hear it. So thank you very much.
Hi, Carmela Troncoso from EPFL. So my first feedback is I don't see why you need to wait for 2021 to make changes, because you just said that right now the fragmentation is not helping. And we had this experience this year at PETS that we fragmented the PC, and I felt this expertise, and that is just damaging the process, it's just damaging the reviews that people receive because you don't have that thing. So I don't really see why we shouldn't, or why you shouldn't to change this thing tomorrow. Right? If you don't know it's not working, there is no point in going for another 9 months. And then my second proposal is to keep the review cycle in 2 months, because it's very nice to have a fast turnaround. And you can have an early reject or an early accept at that point. And then for the papers that you need more expertise, then those can be for 1 more month. Like, you don't need to treat everything the same. If really the goal is to improve quality, then let's do things that help to that.
Yes, to have early decisions. I think that's something we definitely discussed, and I think it's a very good idea. Thank you very much.
Grant Ho, UC Berkeley. Thank you so much for all your work. Given that you've mentioned that there is some shortcomings in expertise, do you think there's any way that you could sort of release an aggregate data set of sort of which papers are accepted and which topics they specify, and which areas are missing essentially reviewer expertise? Because I think for authors, when we're considering submitting papers, there are so many deadlines right now. And given that, you know, if conferences do have certain limitations in the reviewer set, I think it's fair for authors to know, hey, if I submit, should I submit to conference A or conference B if conference A doesn't have reviewers?
I mean, if we have the PC list online, of course, so is that not sufficient for you to look at the program committee?
I mean, I also think it would be helpful to have this data, and you also don't know which reviewers are reviewing in which month, and sort of like, right,
but also, I mean, we could leverage the entire PC, so it's hard for us to say these 20 people are reviewing in January, because we are calling on the experts that are not assigned in that cycle. So all the PC might review a paper. So
I agree. I think it's just helpful to have this data, because you've mentioned that there's this problem, and rather than having you do any more work, I think just for us to sort of assess this, right? I don't think it leaks any information, but I think it would be helpful to authors to be able to make informed decisions given this data set that exists.
Okay.
Tobias Fiebig, TU Delft. So disclaimer, I just had a paper come back with 2 times reviewer expertise 1 and 1 times reviewer expertise 2.
Oh.
So for me, it sounds a little bit like we are more and more gravitating towards the journal concept, where the PC chairs or editors are basically just picking people that would have the expertise to review a specific paper. And that might actually be like a way forward. So instead of a PC, you just have a list of available reviewers for that journal conference, and then you pick based on expertise and not on availability.
And I can confirm that we've been reaching outside the PC. So for papers that we don't really have anyone on the PC, so we've been asking for external experts in the field, and sometimes people just decline, but we are successful in getting expertise for some of the papers. Thank you.
Sumanjana, Columbia. So one of the things I wanted to ask about is what kind of matching system we are using for assigning reviewers, right? Because as an author, when I see the boxes to tick, right, which areas apply, they seem rather coarse-grained, right? So is that all, or are we considering, say, machine learning style matching? an automated matching?
So this year we haven't run the machine learning matching, but we are doing bidding. So PC members bid on papers. Plus we have, for everybody, we have a profile of which area they are experts in. And
But that's
so we
manually
match the
created.
area, right, but first we consider the expertise, then we also match the area. So HotCRP has a matching algorithm that we are using.
But that's based on the manual, because the category seems a lot rather coarse-grained. Like, and I'll say, like, say ML security, right? So as far as I remember, there's no topic saying ML security, right? So there's like,
No, there is.
enough.
I introduced it. I think there is.
Sure, now there is, but I'm saying, it's a little coarse-grained, like it requires manual
Yes, yes.
signing.
Yeah, but we are checking. So both Hovav and I have been checking all these assignments. So first we run the automatic assignment with HotCRP, and we are checking, and we've been swapping, reviewers in and out, and we both take a look at it, and
You're
most
manually
of the
checking.
time, we're doing our best to find the right experts.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin Bogota, Princeton University. I'm wondering why you're not just growing the PC more. So CCS, for example, has 30 reviewers more than Oakland has. And have you considered basically pairing more junior PC members with like more senior PC members, basically to get like better review quality or more expertise and like more focused reviews?
Yeah, I think we could grow the PC more. We had a challenge this year, getting people to accept our invitation. So I didn't compute the acceptance rate, but it wasn't as high as I personally expected. So getting a large PC, we really look for people that are experts. So we're not willing to sacrifice on quality, but it's hard to put together. So.
So a few comments. First of all, thank you so much for your work. I know how much this is time that doesn't go into research. So thank you so much. It's a good idea to go to a larger, like less deadlines. I think that other conferences are also doing it, and it's okay to tune. I remember when Brian made the presentation, and that's what he promised. We're going to try it, we're going to monitor, we're collecting data, and we're going to tune it. So I think it's a good idea. Second, we cannot micromanage this to the level that I hear some people is that we need to have that many experts in this area. 2-3 years ago, there were very few machine learning papers in security. Now we have entire sessions. So, the community is moving towards new problems. Sometimes you have the people that are the experts. You have conflicts. So it's very, very difficult to do that kind of micromanaging. Growing the PC too much has its own disadvantages. We all heard of how much people value the community. The bigger the PC is going to go, right? It's harder to maintain quality. I trust you guys that you're doing a good job, so.
Thank you very much. Okay, so thank you so much for all the feedback. So you will hear from us soon. There will be some online discussion. We're still deciding, how to set that up, but we'd like to make a decision very soon if we're going to refine the current submission model. So thank you so much, and we'll be in touch. Okay.
And I think the business meeting is adjourned. Enjoy your evenings. Come back to the symposium tomorrow. Don't forget the workshops on Thursday. Thank you very much.